Hey, I'm Doug McAllister, and this is Stories I Didn't Tell Last Sunday. This is a weekly podcast from Journey Fellowship Church, and today joining me as my guest is Pastor Tanya Camper, and we're going to be talking today about how to hear the voice of God, plus telling stories from the last 25 years. It's hard to believe that we've been in, our friendship has been going on for 25 years. That's just hard to believe, huh?
It's been sweet.
I know. How fast do the years flow, man? It just seems like yesterday we met. I remember the first Sunday I met you, you and Curtis and the three boys, Curtis, Joshua, and Daniel all came to church. We were still meeting in our little aluminum cathedral.
Yes, that's right.
We were like maybe in a year in. I don't remember exactly how close we were.
It was a year in.
Yeah, and you guys came to visit that Sunday. And I knew the first time I talked to you that we're going to have a friendship. I just knew that. Did you feel the same thing?
I knew it. You really impressed me that Sunday because you greeted us. You were at the door greeting.
Yeah.
And you greeted us. You asked us all our names.
Yeah.
And we even had a conversation about our dog, my dog.
Right. I remember it.
And the next week I came, you still remembered. You remembered all of our names, and you remembered Charlie. I was
Your
like,
dog.
Okay, we're here.
Yeah, how could you forget Charlie, huh?
Oh.
He's been gone a long time.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Didn't Charlie go on the evacuation with us?
Yes.
Yeah, when we evacuated for the hurricane. What was that,
Yes.
1999 or 2000?
It was somewhere
when was
around.
that? Yeah, Charlie was still alive.
Charlie was still alive.
And he was a pit bull?
He was a pit bull.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. He was a Rottweiler.
He was a Rottweiler.
He was a Rottweiler.
I know he was ferocious.
Yes.
Yeah. He was the gentlest Rottweiler I've ever seen.
I know.
He was like a puppy.
135 pounds.
Of love.
Yes.
Just pure love.
My kids used to ride him.
Well, we put him in the back of our truck, remember, on the evacuation. What hurricicane was that?
I don't even remember the hurricane, but we went to Illinois,
I
Carbondale,
know,
Illinois.
all the way to Illinois. What the heck? We drove for how long? How many hours is Carbondale away? It must be like 10 hours, huh?
Yeah, it's a good 10, 11.
We went straight up 50, 55.
Oh, heck, if I remember that
all
part.
the way through the middle of America to Illinois. Yeah,
Carbondale, Betsy and Wayne Sutherland's
That's
home.
right. It was friends of yours from days gone by that were missionaries. Pastors.
They were they were pastors.
Yeah.
And he had a ministry, kind of like Chi Alpha.
Yeah, right.
Ministry on a college campus.
That's right. And we stayed with them.
And we stayed with them.
Yeah.
And Charlie came this close to pooping on your luggage.
Well, he did. In the back of the truck. We had to stop and find a car wash and wash it out. Like, full of love, Charlie.
Oh, my God.
Full of love. Yeah.
He was looking kind of a little greenish.
He was. He was sick. It was a rough ride.
It really
He was in the back of the truck for 10 hours. He was... remember stopping and getting gas along the way?
Oh, my God.
The gas lines were a mile. It's like we were living in the Great Depression.
Crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Remember when we got to Carbondale, Illinois, we went to church with Betsy and them, and we went into the basement and we did communion.
Oh, we did.
Remember the wine?
Yeah. One of our kids, I guess it was Ryan, a Christian, was old enough to take communion with us.
Yes.
And first time they ever tasted wine. Yeah. I think it was Ryan.
And we were all surprised because we just was thinking grape juice because that's what we do, right?
We had a cup
Everybody
of
does
wine.
grape juice.
And it wasn't just, one cup to pass around. Everybody got the cup of wine. It was like, man. I remember Ryan asking me, Dad, what is this? I said, that's real wine. He said, oh, okay. He never had real wine before.
Oh, my goodness.
And then he asked me if we could be Lutheran. I said, no, we can't be Lutheran because he loved the wine.
Yeah. I got a little tipsy.
Yeah, at church. Yeah.
Oh, my God. What great memories.
Man, we've been through a lot of hurricanes, starting with that one.
Yeah.
We've been through, 25 years worth of hurricanes.
Yeah.
And
oh, my
that's
goodness.
the first one we evacuated from, Slidell from. I'm sure you evacuated before that, but that was my first time to leave Slidell for a hurricane.
Yeah. That was my first time as a married couple.
Really?
To leave. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have hurricanes every year, and we hardly ever evacuate. I think, most of the country thinks that a hurricane comes, everybody leaves, but we hardly ever leave for a hurricane. I can count maybe on one hand the number of times that we evacuated, maybe 3 or 4 times.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
including this. Yeah.
Yeah, but I stayed.
Yeah, Hurricane Ida. I tried to get you to leave. I called you.
You did.
I said, you need to come with me.
I know.
You should have came.
And we should have.
I know. I said, Ken, you shouldn't stay. I just woke up that Saturday morning before the hurricane, and I felt like something was wrong. I said, in my spirit, I was like, I told Rachel, I said, Rachel, we need to leave. And I hardly ever say we need to leave for a hurricane, but I just knew in my spirit, which, turns out it was a good call. And I think it was the Lord. Of course, you stayed and God took care of you. You know, not saying that it wasn't God speaking to you too, but I think God gives every person, the leading that they need at the time. And I want to talk to you about that today, about hearing the voice of the Lord.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about hearing the voice of the Lord, but even like for Hurricane Katrina, that was a storm that we all evacuated for.
We did,
And I remember not, having that deep down knowing that we needed to leave for that one.
Yeah.
And I remember us walking out the door,
and
it was Joshua was still living at home.
Right.
And we said, I said, hey, is anybody going to pray?
Yeah.
And Joshua said, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. And he said, and if the Lord takes it away, he'll give us back our house better than what we had.
Oh, my gosh. What a word.
I'm like, and all I could do, me and Curtis just said, amen. We packed up. But you know what the interesting thing?
Word.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
And I did. I got my house better than it was.
Wow.
Like literally, I always wanted to tear down the wall in the kitchen and open up that whole space.
You did. That's right.
And I had to go through a lot.
Yeah.
I did a lot of
Well,
prayer,
getting
in my closet and praying. Like Curtis was like,
he
was like, Tanya, no, we're just putting the house back together.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, Jesus. I went into the prayer closet, started speaking in the spirit.
I said, I need my wall
Came
down,
out,
Lord.
I asked Curtis again. He said, nope, we're putting the house back together, just the way it was. And then the third, I went back into my prayer closet. After doing that 3 times, Curtis said one day, he says, I was thinking if we tore down this wall, we could open up that space. I said, honey, great idea.
I'm glad you thought of that. You prayed that into existence, didn't you? It's interesting how the Lord speaks to us over the years. Oh. I think sometimes when we say that, it may not be a clear message to people who are listening. It's not like God is talking audibly, to us. But there's this spiritual voice that happens in your conscience. Yeah. And unless it's happened to you, it just sounds crazy.
Right.
But when it happens to you, you understand, oh yeah, I get it. It's that that word you just used, the knowing.
Yeah.
I just know. I know that I know that I know. And God speaks to us, and I don't hear God speak to me every day about everything.
Yeah.
I do get nudgings in my spirit, or nudgings or directions in my heart. But sometimes
or
God
a check.
Sometimes I don't do that.
Yes.
Sometimes the Spirit just says that, and I think it's hard to explain. But I know the Bible is full of people who had visitations from the Lord, and they heard a word from God.
Right.
And all of the prophets in the Old Testament and the apostles and the pastors in the New Testament. There's so many stories about God speaking to people. And I think God, by His Spirit, leads all of His people if we'll tune in and listen to the voice of the Lord.
My sheep know my voice.
See,
and they follow me.
That's so true. Jesus said that my sheep know my voice.
Yeah.
And they will follow me. Do you remember the first time you heard the voice of God?
Yes.
Why don't you tell that story?
I was about 11 years old, and I was praying one day, and I just had this epiphany, like I wasn't going to always be beating up little boys.
Yeah.
That I was going to marry one.
Beating up little boys. Yeah.
I knew that I could talk to God, because my mom always had the Bible sitting open on the coffee table, and my mom was just always been, my whole life, I've only known her as a woman of prayer.
Right.
And so I knew that I could talk to God in the same way, same fashion that I'm talking with you.
Right.
And so in that moment of realizing that I was going to marry one day, I stopped and I prayed. I told God everything that I wanted in a husband.
Wow.
Having no idea and no concept of what even love was.
Yeah.
I remember telling him the only way I could describe love was that I wanted my husband to love me like the best thing since hot apple pie.
What a great prayer.
I told him the number of kids I wanted. I told him even how I wanted Curtis to look.
Oh, my gosh.
I was very specific.
So you're 11.
Yeah.
And you didn't know Curtis.
And I did not know Curtis at all.
Wow.
And you talk about not hearing an audible voice.
Yeah.
I've heard the audible voice of God twice.
Wow.
And one was that day.
Yeah.
And when I finished praying, I heard it was like the heavens opened and a voice came out of the sky.
Yeah.
And it said, Tanya Camper. And I thought, yuck, what an ugly name. But I ran in and I told my mom of my experience and my encounter that I had just had with God.
Yeah.
And I love my mom so much today because she validated me. Mm-hmm. She didn't say, Tanya, we're going to take you to see a psychiatrist. We need to put you on medication, get you the padded room.
Yeah.
She didn't say anything. She validated me. Mm-hmm. I ran off and I beat up another little boy.
Well, good. Went back to your ways.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So years later, a time period had passed,
well,
and I started.
Let me just get this clear. So your maiden name was Zenon.
Zenon,
so
yes.
you're Tanya Zenon.
I'm Tanya Zenon.
You're 11 years old.
I'm 11 years old.
And you're praying about a husband, and the voice of God speaks to you and tells you your name's going to be Tanya Camper.
Yes.
And you didn't know a camper.
And I did not know a camper.
Wow.
So
that's pretty amazing.
Time goes on, and I start telling my mom. I said, Mom, we have to move. We were living in California at the time. I said, Mom, we have to move back home to Louisiana. My husband is there.
Oh, my gosh.
And I just repeatedly kept telling my mom that. Well, my grandmother got sick, and we moved back home so my mom could care for her mother. And still didn't, I totally had kind of like forgotten, time passes, you forget. Well, I meet this guy I met Curtis. Well, I saw Curtis.
Yeah.
And his sister was very upset with him.
How many years later is this?
I'm now 16.
So 5 years later.
Yeah.
Wow.
So 5 years later.
Yeah. So you meet Curtis
We're at high school.
At high school.
At high school.
Yeah.
And I see his sister. She's on the phone, and she's very upset about something he had done.
Yeah.
And with another kid, a prank.
Right.
And so she was very upset.
Yeah.
And so he sees me in the hallway. Oh, no, let me back up a little bit. Let me not tell that story, because I'm going to chase a rabbit if I go down that one.
All right.
It's in November,
Yeah.
and I go to a basketball game. It's the game between Slidell High and Selman.
Okay.
And the gym is packed because this is our rivalry. I mean,
Right.
this is the rivalry game,
Right.
So I go in, and the game is packed. I see my friends, and there's only 2 seats there.
Yeah.
So I just want to sit down because you feel like all eyes are on you. Mm-hmm. I go and I sit down at the first seat.
Yeah.
It's the end seat. Curtis is sitting in the next position, and I sit right next to him.
Oh, wow.
He throws his arms around me, and he says, I'm going to marry you.
Oh, my goodness. That was bold.
And I said, I don't think so. And I went up to the next seat that was a little bit higher up. Never saw him again.
Really?
The semester changes in January, and every day at 5th hour, I see him.
Yeah.
The only time. I had never seen him the first 3 years of high school.
Wow.
Never seen him, never knew anything about him. And then he starts asking me every day from January until May, will I go out with him?
Yeah.
And every day at 5th hour, I told him no.
Wow. Did you know his name?
No.
Oh, you should have.
I didn't even know his name.
That didn't include if they had his last
I think his
name.
name Curtis, but you know what? I didn't. But you know what? That's this time. 5 years has passed, and I've forgotten all about that.
Yeah.
So one day I find out his old girlfriend wanted to get back with him, and she had been telling me all these bad things about him, like he was a bad guy and all this. And so I believed her because I thought she was my friend.
Yeah.
And so anyway, long story short,
Yeah.
I finally said, when I realized that, I said, "Oh, you got your chance."
Yeah.
And I walk away.
Yeah.
And then we go out on our first date.
So he asked you, and you said yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So we go out on our first date, and 3 weeks later, he says, I'd like to give you a ring. I'm only a junior in high school. He's a senior. He said, I'd like to give you a ring. And I said, give me a ring. I said, what kind of ring?
Yeah.
And he says, I'll give you an engagement ring if you take it.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, no, you better start me off with something small.
Yeah.
And so he says, so he gives me a promise ring. Yeah. I have lost 3 sets of wedding rings, but I've never lost that promise ring.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Never lost that promise ring. You know, when we went to Africa, I told him I was taking him with me.
Oh.
I carried that. I put the ring on a necklace, and I wore it the whole time while I was there.
So when did you find out his last name?
So we're dating. We started dating and everything. So he finally officially, 2.5 years later, he asked me and proposes, and I say yes. So I'm sitting at the breakfast table. I'm writing my name, Tanya Camper. Tanya Camper, no.
And you remembered.
I ran upstairs and I said, Mama, I says, do you know what my name is going to be?
Yeah.
And like all good moms, she just plays along with me, and I'm saying my name really slow. I said, Tanya, and she's saying it with me. We're saying, Tanya, Camp. We got in the middle of camper. Our eyes got this big, and we just started screaming. Like God told me what my name was going to be.
When you were 11 years old.
Like, and he has loved me. And you know what? He has loved me just like I described it to
like
God. And you know what?
Pie.
And you know what his favorite dessert is?
Hot apple pie. Does he call you hot apple pie?
No.
See,
but I am his boo.
I heard he call you boo many times. It's just beautiful, when God speaks to us, and we don't see the results of it for 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Sometimes you even forget what God said.
Yeah.
But the word of the Lord is sure.
Yeah.
And it's ironic that your story is like that. I have one very similar to that. I was 12.
I know
the first time I heard the voice of God, I was 12 years old. I wasn't a believer, and we didn't even go to church. Our family didn't even attend church, and I didn't even know the voice of God. But I was innocent. I was a 12-year-old little boy, and we had just moved to a new town, and I hated school. I hated the school that my mom put me in. I missed all my friends. I didn't like, the new town we were living in. So I was sick all the time. I think I was faking a lot. I think I was just sick of school. But I woke up one morning and I was really sick, and I had a fever. And I told Mom I don't want to go to school. So she said, I'll take you to the doctor. And we had, in the town we lived in, we had an old doctor. He must have been 65 or 70 years old, which don't seem that old right now because I'm getting close
Lord
to that myself.
Jesus.
By that time, he seemed like he was a really old man.
Yeah.
Mom said, I'll take you to see the doctor. So she put me in the car, and we had a Buick at the time. I was on the front seat in the passenger side, and my mom's driving, and we're going from our little town to where the doctor is in the next town over, and we're cutting through the countryside. And we come to a stop sign, and I remember the name of the street. It was Macedonia Road, where it met Adams Road, and we came to a stop sign. And I'm sitting there, my mom's waiting for cars to pass, and I look to the right, and I hear a voice out of the blue. And the voice says, as I'm looking to the right, your wife lives right down this road.
Jesus.
And it was so real. I don't think it was audible. I don't know. I just know I heard those words. Your wife lives right down this road.
Yeah.
So I turned to Mom and I said, did you hear that? And she said, what are you talking about, Douglas? I said, did you hear that voice? And she said, oh my gosh, your fever must be really high. You're hearing voices. I said, no, Mom, the voice said my wife lives down this road. And she said, baby, I think your fever is high. Why don't you just lay back until I get you to the doctor? But I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I was 11, almost 12 in that neighborhood. So fast forward 4 years, I'd come to faith in Christ. I was going to a little church and to a youth group. And our youth groups got together with another youth group in town, and we had like a combined fellowship night with a bunch of teenagers, like maybe 40 or 50 of us there that night. So that's the first night I met Rachel. She didn't give me the time of day. She wouldn't even look at me. But when I saw her walk across the room, I said, oh, I got to meet that girl. I was all of 16 or 17. No, 16. So I was still in high school, 11th grade. There was another event a few weeks later, and we ran each other again at youth group, and so I asked her if I could call her. She had to ask my mom. So I went and talked to her mom. Can I call Rachel? And they gave me permission to call her. Oh, wow. And we talked like 3 minutes at night. That's all they would let us talk, was a few minutes at night. And then in that summer, after school was out, they had a 4th of July party at their pool. And she called me and said, hey, my dad said you can come over and swim and barbecue with us. So I said, okay, give me directions to your house. She lived about 5 miles from me. And she gave me directions, and she told me what street to turn on. So I'm driving over there, and I pull up to Macedonia Road where it meets Adams Road. And she said, when you get to Adams Road, take a right. So I'm sitting, when I pulled up to that street, I remember it, when I was 12 years old, that day I heard God's voice when he said, your wife. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to marry this girl.
This is the one.
This is my wife. Now, I didn't tell her that. I took her right.
You didn't want to scare her, right?
I didn't, yeah, because we were kids, So I took her right. I went down where she told me, turned in, and that was her house. But from that moment on, I knew this could be, what the Lord was telling me. Now, here we are 40 years and 5 kids and 5 grandkids later. We've been together our entire lives.
I know. Me and Curtis, too.
Our whole life.
Like, isn't it funny that God spoke to us both when we were 11?
It's really weird. Yeah.
And then we were 16 when we found them?
I know. It's just ironic,
Yeah.
I don't know. Weird.
God likes 11-year-olds.
Apparently, he loves children,
Yes,
he called
does.
Samuel when he was a little boy. He spoke to Samuel.
He sure did.
Samuel didn't know it was the voice of God. He thought it was his mother or his father or the priest.
No, he thought it was the prophet.
Yeah, he thought it was
Samuel.
the priest Eli, wasn't it?
Eli.
Samuel
No,
thought
Samuel.
Samuel thought it was Eli.
Yes, right. I'm sorry.
Because it was Samuel that was hearing God's voice.
Right.
3
and
times.
he had gone to bed, and
Yeah.
he said he got up and he said, "Did you call me?"
Right. And he said, "No, I didn't call you."
No. And the third time he says,
Yeah.
If
And he was a little
did,
boy.
answer because it's the Lord.
He was a little boy.
Yeah.
And the priest told him, "If you hear it again, it's God. Say, here
God
I am.
speaking to you.
Here I
It's the
am."
Lord. Wow.
Isn't it amazing how one word from God
Changes
can set the
everything.
course for your whole life?
Yeah.
For your whole life. I just think about that. A 12-year-old little boy in the front seat of his car, an 11-year-old little girl in prayer in California, and how God just one word from
One
God
word.
can change
Everything.
everything. And I think it's so important that believers learn how to listen to the voice of God.
Yeah.
Because it won't always be that audible voice or that life-defining word, but it may just be a simple direction, like don't do that, or go here instead, or wait. Sometimes it's just that knowing in your spirit, this is not right.
Yeah.
I got to just wait on God, And I think the Holy Spirit, who is in our spirit, we're filled with the Holy Spirit, communicates to us directly into our subconscious, into our spirit man.
Our spirit, right.
But right into us, so we can just know that we know that we know. This is the right thing to do. It's just amazing. Something happened to you just a couple of days ago that I want you to tell the story about, that really, a word from God probably saved your life.
Yeah.
So I want you to just tell us what happened when you were making red beans and rice.
Yeah. I got up that morning to cook a pot of beans.
How long ago was this?
This was just last week.
All right,
and it was on a Tuesday.
All right, so about a week ago.
It was on a Tuesday.
All right, tell us the story.
And so I got up that morning to cook some beans, and I was just having trouble. Like everything that I had, like what I normally did, it was just kind of strange. And so I just okay, well, I was doing a new way of cooking my beans.
Yeah.
And so I turned them off because I couldn't finish the first process of it. Left and went to church.
Yeah.
And when I got home, I thought, well, I'll just finish cooking them at that point when I get home.
So this is Tuesday after work.
This is Tuesday
after you left the
work.
office, you went home to finish cooking.
Yeah. And I had been up since 3:30 that morning.
Yeah.
And God had been getting me up at that time.
Yeah.
Pretty often now. Become a regular thing between me and him.
And we were recovering from a storm, too. Y'all were doing relief work. You were staying up 20 hours a day. It was been a long, long week.
So the days were long.
Yeah.
And we had already been 2 weeks we were into our second week after the storm of relief and recovery.
Right.
And I remember when I got home, I put the beans on, and I went and I sat down and I thought I would read a book.
Yeah.
And so, because I was feeling like, hey, man, I'm not tired. This is really crazy because I don't know what I'm running off of. My beans overflowed.
Right.
So I
and
went.
People who are watching who don't know, cooking beans in the South is an art. It's an all-day event.
It's an all-day
If you do it right, If
you do it right, you're going to have a good pot of beans.
That's
They're
right.
going to be creamy.
It may take you 12 hours. Yeah.
Yes,
So
exactly.
you're going through the whole Louisiana cooking red beans, and you're in the evening time.
Yes.
And your beans boil over.
Yeah, the beans boil over
Yeah.
because the fire was too hot, and
Yeah.
I guess I didn't leave enough of a crack on the lid.
Right.
And so I went and I cleaned up the mess, and I went back to the sofa and got the book and was like just with the book reading, and then all of a sudden I just was like, all of a sudden I started getting sleepy. And I thought, this is really strange because it wasn't like a sleepy tired, like,
Right.
you get tired and you just want to take a nap.
Right.
This was just like, I just got this it was almost like a smooth, silky kind of like
Wow.
taking me into a sleep.
Right.
And so I thought, well, I'm just going to lay down and I'm just going to.
We should probably insert here that after you had the coronavirus, you lost your sense
Well,
of
I was going
smell.
to tell her that. Yes,
Yeah.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, that's an important part
Yeah,
of it.
I was getting to that, but
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of set it
Gotcha.
up for
Okay.
it. So I had now since you said it,
Yeah.
I did have corona
Yeah.
back in February,
Right.
and one of the things that I lost was my sense of smell.
Right.
So I'm laying down. I decided I'm going to lay down, but
Right.
as I was laying down, I heard a voice say, "If you go to sleep, you're not going to wake up."
Oh my gosh.
And the very next moment, I heard the Lord's voice.
Yeah.
And he said, "Go check the stove."
Oh my gosh. I got cold chills.
I got up and I went to check the stove. And I realized that when the pot had boiled over,
Yeah.
it had put out the fire.
Oh my goodness.
And because I could not smell,
Yeah.
my house had filled with gas.
Oh my gosh.
And the gas was putting me to sleep.
Yeah.
So I opened up the windows. I stood in the doorway. But because I didn't smell, I didn't know how much gas had filled the house.
Yeah.
Well, Curtis walks into the door, and literally upon opening the door, he says, "The gas is on."
Yeah.
And you could hear like he was upset in his voice.
Yeah.
And I thought, I know the windows are open,
Yeah.
but the windows had been open already for about 25
Oh
minutes.
my gosh. Your house was full of gas.
My house was full of gas. That act of obedience, that when God spoke, when we talk about listening to the voice of God,
Yeah.
responding to it, and he says, "I would rather have your obedience than your sacrifice."
Yeah.
I thought about Job this morning and how in Job, he said, "You can do anything you want to Job, but don't take his life."
Yeah.
That day, God said, "No, you won't take her life." And God spoke to me. He spoke to me. But the thing that so takes me away with this, takes me back, is just the fact of what Curtis and my boys' lives would have looked like.
Yeah.
Like that day for him to have found me on the sofa,
Right.
unconscious, dead,
Right.
and then him having to call our boys,
Oh my gosh.
to call my mom,
Yeah.
call you.
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
But just the act of obedience
Yeah.
saved my life. And I believe that, we can't ignore the voice of God.
Right.
Even in Psalms 23, he says that he leads us
Yeah.
and that he leads us, he guides us.
Yeah.
In order for him to lead and guide us is that we have to listen.
Yeah.
We have to sit at his feet. We have to spend time with him to know his voice.
Yeah.
We have to read his word so that he speaks to us and that he makes things clear when
Yeah.
things are happening in our lives, and for us to get understanding of who he is and what he desires to do in our lives.
Yeah.
If you think about the shepherd
Yeah.
and you think about the sheep, sometime in the sheep's pen, they'll have many different flocks
Yeah.
inside of that one pen.
Right.
And those sheep have to recognize the shepherd's voice
Yeah.
so that they can go with the shepherd.
Mhm.
But they don't learn the voice of God there
Yeah.
in the pen.
Yeah.
They learn the voice of God when he takes them out to the pasture.
Boy, that'll preach.
That's when they learn the
Yeah.
voice of God.
Yeah.
That's when we get into real
Yeah.
relationships.
That time alone with Jesus, your
Yeah.
prayer closet, when you're in the Word, when you're worshiping, all those times build that familiarity with the voice of God.
Yeah.
You get to know his voice
Yeah.
intimately, and personally.
Yeah.
It's like a baby hearing the voice of its mother. Or a mother, can pick out the voice of their children out of a crowd.
Yeah.
It's just incredible how God created us to be able to tune into the voice, and especially the voice of the Lord. And that day just reminds me of that story that, sometimes God speaks to us and he gives us direction, but it's really up to us if we obey,
That's exactly
if we
right.
listen. Had you not gotten up and walked into the kitchen, I mean, just that thought, you could have pushed it out of your man. I'll check the stove
Yeah.
later,
And had I done that, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Yeah, and I don't think the world's ready for life without Tanya.
Oh.
We're not ready for that yet.
It's so sweet of you.
Not ready for that yet.
You're going to make me cry here.
Well, I'm not ready for that yet. Life is so fragile. I mean, we are getting
really
old,
is.
but we're not that old.
No, we're not that old.
We're not ready to go.
We are not. We've grown gray together.
I know. That's crazy, huh?
Oh, my God.
We've had so many funerals over the last 25 years. So many people we've had to bury.
So many people that we've loved.
I know it. And that loved each other and loved us and loved the church,
Yeah.
And I know there'll come a day for all of us. It is appointed to all men once to die.
That's right.
And so God is not going to always spare us. Someday he will call our number and we will go home.
Yeah.
But we don't want to hurry it.
No, because there's still work to be done.
Yeah, don't want to miss.
There's still souls to be saved.
I know it. There's still too much fun to be had.
Oh, my God.
There's life to be lived.
Love God, love people, work hard, and
have fun.
And have fun.
And cook red beans.
Hello.
Yeah, I may have red beans today. Yeah.
I want you to know that the red beans, the beans were delicious too.
Were they really?
Yeah.
They almost cost you your life. Yeah. They should have been some great red beans.
They were good beans.
Yeah, I love you red beans.
They were good beans.
You can cook some red beans.
Lord
In fact,
Jesus.
it's Monday when we're filming this. So in Louisiana, it's a law. Monday, you got to have red beans
and rice.
I passed by Slidell Eats a while ago on the way over here.
Oh, I love that place.
On their big handwritten sign, it said today's lunch, red beans and rice. I think, need to go visit Slidell.
I love
Eats.
them because they, go to Good Eats.
Yeah. Is it Good Eats? I thought it was Slidell. Oh, it's called Good Eats.
It's called Good Eats.
Yeah, what a great name for a restaurant.
I know. But I
Good
love
Eats.
them because they cook from scratch.
Yeah, everything.
And I just love their food.
I know.
Small little place.
It only seats like 12 people,
Yeah.
or 15 people, or whatever.
It
But
doesn't
it's
seem
real
many.
Louisiana food.
Yeah.
Cooked in the kitchen
Yeah.
from scratch every day. Yeah.
Remember our first meal together?
Yeah.
You remember
There?
it? No.
Where were we? I don't
We
remember.
went to a pizza place.
Oh, we went to
what was it called? Sicily's? No,
Sicily's.
Sicily's.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was where the Rouse's is now.
Yes,
It
that's
wasn't
right. It was
Albert's.
old Albertsons shopping
Yeah,
center.
we went to Sicily's and we had the buffet.
And we had the buffet.
Yeah, all of
The
you and Curtis and your kids and me and Rachel and all of our kids.
I still remember where we were sitting at
Yeah.
in the room, and I
Yeah.
can even see where we were sitting at.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying we were going to be good friends.
We did. I said we're gonna be good friends for a long
Yeah.
time. We fought a lot for 25
Oh
years.
my God.
Sometimes you really get on my nerves a lot.
I just want you to know you get on mine too.
You just annoy me sometimes.
I think Rachel was like, what was Rachel? She was like, oh, you guys are just, you act like brothers and sisters.
I know we do. We are.
do.
are.
That's true.
We grew up in a different family, but we've always been brother and sister. You've been with me
Yeah.
through the loss of all my family members.
Yeah.
When my dad passed.
Yeah. I loved Pop.
Love you.
And so sweet is that he wanted to have his repast before he died.
No, he did. He had his own. He threw a party. He knew he only had a couple months to live, and he had a wake. He called it a party, but we all knew what he wanted to see his friends before he died.
And Pop called me up and told me I had to be there.
I know he did.
It was like, okay, this is your family reunion, and Pop was like, I'm going to be there.
He wanted you to come. He told all of his friends that you were his daughter from another mother.
Yeah. Yes. I remember when I drove up, okay, this is deep in Louisiana.
Yeah.
In the woods.
Yeah, the redneck
and I'm
bill.
thinking, Lord Jesus, I'm driving there, and I am thinking, Lord,
Am I going to get out of here?
am I going to live through this day?
I know.
And I remember
Yeah.
Mary was outside in front of the
church.
place where we were.
He's a little church, yeah.
And there was your cousins were out there.
Yeah.
And it was about 4 of them outside.
Right.
And so I drove up
Yeah.
and I'm just thinking, Lord Jesus,
Yeah.
you have a sense of humor. And
Up in here with all these white people.
Yeah. And Mary knows immediately who I am.
Yeah.
And she says, Tanya?
Yeah.
And I say, Mary?
I know.
And we hug and embrace. And your cousins are looking like, what is going on here? It's like, why is she here? What's
Yeah.
going on? And Mary said, this is my sister, Tanya. And they all look like, oh my God, Pop had a black
Another one.
daughter.
He always told people
Oh
that
my
you were his black daughter. Yeah. He loved you so much.
I loved Pop.
He loved you so much. It's just amazing how you became part of our family. All my brothers and sisters treated you like a sister. They loved you. And they have all gone on now. Mary passed.
Russell's the only one?
Paul passed.
Yeah.
And you were with me when we buried my brother who committed suicide. Yeah, it was a hard day. It was a dark day.
But that's what it means to do life together. on all the different levels. You know, the good times, the bad times, the hard times. You know, the times when we've laughed, the times when we've screamed at each other.
I know, like, how did you phone calls that ended when I see you, I will kill you because I had enough of you.
I am done.
I'm done with you. And Rachel would say, would you stop acting like that with Tanya?
You're like, what are y'all arguing about now? Remember we went to a restaurant and we started screaming at each other.
We yelled at each other
in the restaurant.
Probably the one time we ever yelled that loud at each other.
Yes, that was the one time.
I had to straighten you
publicly.
out. I had to straighten you out.
Yeah, you straightened me out all right. I'm like, I just want to put a pot knot on your head.
Oh my gosh. We've had some great times.
We've really had some great times.
We lived through hell and high water.
Oh, man.
That's an old saying from the country.
Oh, you said that, and I thought about Katrina and Mr. Paul.
I know.
Oh.
That was an amazing day. September 2005, the first Sunday after Katrina. Yeah. We all gathered in the parking lot in front of our building.
Yeah.
You know, you and Curtis and your boys and me and Rachel and our kids. And we're there with about 50 or 60 other people. You know, we were from...
I remember the number because I used to count.
How many?
It was 87.
87 of us there. Well, the Sunday
87,
before...
but we were 1,200.
Right. The Sunday before, we were right at 1,300 people in the building. So we went from a church of 1,300 attenders, probably a church of about 2,000 people.
Yes.
But attenders about 1,300. So then Sunday after Katrina, there were 87 of us left.
Jesus.
And there was no building.
No building.
Nowhere
we were in the mud.
Yeah,
we were washing off chairs for us to sit on.
We were ankle deep in slime and sludge and swamp mud.
Yeah.
And I remember me and you and Ken and Connie and Rachel and Curtis. We just shoveled out all the swamp mud that we could, and we set up about 50 chairs and a tent. And then I think Rachel and Ryan led worship that day.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, and you are right. It was the first Sunday. The next Sunday was 87.
Yeah.
The first Sunday, we were just a small.
It was like 50 or 60.
You were absolutely right because we were on the side of the.
Which Sunday
did
Mr. Paul stand up and sing?
It was that Sunday, the first
Sunday. So we're there, and Mr. Paul, who was at that time,
Paul Campbell,
probably in his 80s at that time.
Yes.
Yeah. So this was close to 80.
Yeah, I think he was close to 80.
Because he passed in his 90s. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was right at 90.
Yeah. Anyway, so he was he's retired from his business, and he was an
accountant.
He was an elder at our church.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
he was a board member at our church. And so he asked me from the congregation, which is like 40 people or 50, he said, "Hey, can I say something?" And, you would never.
Yeah, how are you going to say no to Mr. Paul?
Never. The most gentle, humble.
Loving, kind-hearted.
I know, man of God. And I said, absolutely. So he comes up to the front of the group, and he said, "I want to lead us in a song." Remember what he sang?
Yeah. Count my blessings one by one. He got up and...
I know it. And we all sang it together. I mean,
so funny. You, like just a couple of Sundays ago, something you said in church made me think of Mr. Paul and him standing up and singing that song.
Yeah, that was so precious.
He just led us all. We were so blessed, and we had so much to be thankful for, even in being ankle deep in mud,
right? And the building
and slime,
was right there,
and
it was gone. I mean, we spent most of our ministry building that church, and it was just gone in a moment. Everything we built, everything was gone.
Yeah, everything
gone.
Everything but the dream.
Everything, but and that song kind of defined our recovery.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Let's just count our blessings.
Yeah.
We may have lost everything that we thought was important, but we have what is really important. We have Jesus, and we have each other.
Each other. That's right.
Let's just rebuild.
That's right.
And we were as a church, we were homeless for 34 months.
Church in a box.
Oh, man, that's even. How did we survive that?
The grace of God.
We had to set up and tear down every Sunday for 34 months.
And remember, for about a year, we did it twice a week.
That's right.
Because we started having Wednesday service.
That's true. We did.
At the Harbor Center.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we moved into 18 different locations. Is it almost a different location every Sunday?
Crazy.
Because the storm literally destroyed Slidell.
It did.
Destroyed it.
It did.
There wasn't a house or a building
that wasn't affected.
Untouched. I mean, everybody had a blue tarp. Everybody had a fence, a tree, a car. Everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, life just stopped for us.
Yeah. And our side of the town had fish in our homes and in our church and in the buildings.
Yeah, we had to push fish and snakes and sea creatures out of the buildings. I mean, we had 25 feet of water covered the south end of Slidell. I mean, that's over the rooftops of almost every building. 25 feet. I saw a picture from a satellite during Katrina, and the wall of water as it was coming across the lake to Slidell. It was like something out of a blockbuster movie.
I never saw that.
Yeah,
picture.
it's available online. You can
I'm gonna have to go look at it. Yeah.
If you DuckDuckGo it, you can see it.
DuckDuckGo it.
I use DuckDuckGo. I don't use the other guys. But
you got me on DuckDuckGo.
did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, good for you. You download the app too. Yeah. But anyway, so when I was looking for a picture of the water, you can see this wall of water. It's just a tsunami as it's approaching Slidell, and when it hit the shore, it washed into Slidell. I think they said it went like 4 miles into the city.
Well, I think it had to have been further because we are probably about 5 miles.
Yeah,
or so.
I mean, from the lake shore.
From the lake shore.
Yeah, it went 5 miles into, not just from the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, and deep into the city.
Yeah, because it went all the way to Fremont.
Right.
I had a neighbor who stayed.
That's right.
And he literally swam out to Fremont.
Yeah.
Swam out.
Yeah.
Like, he couldn't swim. He was actually had a gas can that he was holding on to.
Oh, he floated
and
out.
He was,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later had a heart attack.
Fremont is probably what, 8 miles or 10 miles?
Yeah, it's got to be.
So the wall of water was so high it washed over the city for 10 miles.
I mean, even at our house, our house is almost 3 feet off the ground, and the watermark was at 7 on the outside of the house.
Right. In the church building itself, we had a watermark right about 5 feet.
Yeah.
So the water stood in our building at 5 feet deep.
It's crazy,
It's just insane. And then, how God brought us through all of that. It's just
better than what we were.
Right.
Even then.
Right. That's one of those moments when God spoke to me too. I can probably count maybe a half a dozen over the 40, 50 years I've been following the Lord of where God just gave me a word.
Clear.
You just like, do this.
Yeah.
Because I was telling God I was done that day when I went back for the first time.
Yeah, you wanted to go to Tennessee.
I was like,
you were
Lord,
like, you were moving to Tennessee.
I'm moving, Lord. I've done what you asked me to do. I built the church.
We were like, no.
You took it all from me, so I'm done. If unless you want me to stay. And Tanya, God didn't say anything when I prayed that prayer. Sometimes God speaks more to us in His silence.
In His silence. You are so right.
Than He does in His voice. Man, I stood in that parking lot, and there's helicopters overhead from the National Guard. There's troops protecting from looting. I mean, it's like we were in a war zone.
Yeah.
And plus the smell of death, the lake, the dead animals everywhere. It's just putrid. Plus all the sewers backed up, and it was just the whole city smelled like death. And I remember sloshing through that in the parking lot, and I saw the building for the first time, and I poured my whole life into this place, and now it's all gone.
Yeah.
And I just told God, I can't do this again. I was crying. I said, God, I just can't do this again. I don't have it.
Yeah.
And I told God, I said, please let me just quit. And I remember praying and said, Lord, please let me take my little family and just move somewhere where it's safe. That's all I want to do. Please let me leave. And I stood there, and the wind was hot. It was blowing. It was early September. And silence. God didn't say anything. I walked in the building, took a little tour of all the damage, and that was overwhelming. And I found the only thing that survived the storm was a framed picture of our dream hanging on the wall. I couldn't read what it was because it was dark in the building, so I thought maybe it was attached by screws to the concrete wall, but it was just hanging by a wire and a nail. And I thought to myself, how could this be possible? I mean, we had 150 mile-an-hour winds. Yeah. It cracked the ceiling. The roof, which was like an old concrete roof, probably 2 or 3 feet thick, was cracked open. I mean, it was a horrible storm. But yet this little picture hangs unmoved, and the water line is right beneath the bottom of the frame. I'm thinking, what is it? So I took the picture off. I ran through the lobby outside in the sunlight, and I held it up, and it was a framed copy of our dream that we'd written, in 1996. And that's when the Lord spoke to me. And what He said wasn't very comforting, but it was truth.
Yeah.
Sometimes God doesn't always speak comfort. Sometimes He speaks correction. Sometimes He speaks direction. So at that moment, I heard the voice of the Lord say, she took everything from you. Speaking of the storm.
Right.
She took everything from you, but I wouldn't let her take the dream.
Come on.
And I said, I fell to my knees, and I said, okay, God, so I'm starting over, right? And we started over.
Yeah.
With nothing.
Remember you told us that, because of the status of the church, the state of the church.
Yeah.
You released us all.
I laid everybody off. I met with y'all that next time we all gathered in Ken's
house,
Ken
in
and Connie's
his
kitchen, and they had a tree in their house.
Yes.
we had staff meeting with a tree in the house. Yeah, what a life, huh?
Yeah.
And I said, look, I'm starting over. I got a word from God. I said, but I don't expect you guys to stay. I know I can't pay any of you. We have no church. We have no income. I said, so everybody's laid off.
Yeah.
Do what you got to do. Take care of your family. And every one of you said, we're not going anywhere.
We're here.
We didn't come for the money.
Never was for the money.
No, never.
Never was for the money.
We'll just trust God. And I don't know how God made it possible, but we never missed a payroll.
We didn't.
Never.
Never missed
We had
one.
no church and no building. We had no tithers, no one supporting the vision. And we turned our parking lot into a relief center. What you going to say?
It's just, isn't that the way God is?
Yeah.
So that no one could get the glory but him.
I know.
It wasn't like out of our own means or that we had the savings account that had all this money or resources.
We were still a young church, and we were still building. We just bought some land. We were trying to build a building. So we were like...
So the dream was for us to go to Lacombe and buy the 125 acres out there.
Right. So we were planning for the future. But, Convoy of Hope, who, Convoy is an amazing ministry.
Yeah.
Convoy of Hope contacted me. Kerry, I can't remember Kerry's last name. He was with Convoy, still is with Convoy. But he called me and said, hey, we'd like to know if we could use your parking lot to set up a relief center. And I said, yeah, we're not using it. It's a big, wide open parking lot. Come on down. So they rolled in trucks that day.
And they brought
in truckload after truckload so we had diapers and food.
Remember how long the line would be?
Yeah.
It was endless.
Some days we served, didn't we say it was 2,000 cars a day?
Yeah.
We served.
Some crazy
2,000
number.
cars a day. So we had this makeshift warehouse outdoors. It was like a giant Sam's warehouse or Costco warehouse. And we had rows and stacks and forklifts.
Pallets
there was no roof. There was no walls. It was just like this outdoor relief center, And we get there early every morning, and we had water and food. Remember the MREs?
MREs, yes.
Did y'all eat MREs every day?
No,
oh,
we couldn't. We ate a few, but that was not our thing. Give me the potted meat, okay?
Oh,
I'll just take the potted meat, the crackers, sardines in a can, and I don't like sardines
and the
either,
Vienna sausage. Well, me and Rachel and the kids ate MREs, which is a military term, meals ready to eat. MRE. We ate them every day. Literally for the first month, we had MREs for dinner every night.
Oh my God!
So
no,
we got to be a game at night because we didn't have any electricity, so you had to buy candlelight or buy a flashlight. Open the MRE, and the kids were like, "Oh man, I got banana pudding. Give us my dessert." Or, "Oh, I got their favorite entree." It was an interesting life. But we set up that relief line, and we were getting out water and food and diapers and medical supplies and
dog food, hygiene kits,
everything. I mean, it was like it's like a super warehouse.
Yeah.
And cars would line up, and they would stay in line all day, and they would continually move, and we would load their car. What do you need? You need water, you need food, you need diapers. And we did that 2,000 times a day. And we kept that relief line open for 30 days.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people we served. I mean, we lost count.
Tens of thousands
of
people.
Tens of thousands. And it was crazy because we had nothing. All of our houses were damaged. I mean, Rachel and I were sleeping in a dark house. We had to drive the Ponchatoula to sleep in our country house, which had no power.
Yeah.
So we're living on a generator at night and driving to Slidell and working all day. In the middle of all of that, we had every reason to quit.
Mm-hmm.
Every reason to stop. I mean, how can you rebuild a church? We have no resources. We have nothing. And I remember one day in the middle of the relief effort, which was stretching now into almost a whole month. I was walking inside of where the forklift would drive to get the pallets off the shelves, and I was just kind of done. I was tired. I was dirty. We didn't have hot water for weeks. I felt gross. So I'm walking. I'm just telling God. This is hard. I'm tired. And a man walked up to me that I did not know. tall, thin, very well-spoken man, and he said, "Are you the pastor?" My first thought was, "Oh man, I really don't feel like talking to another person. I don't want to help him." He was very selfish. I was like, "You probably need," because everybody needed something.
Right.
Everybody you talked to needed something.
Rich, poor.
Yeah, everybody was in the same boat. Could I get some water? Could I get some food? Could you come help me get a tree off my house? And it was just overwhelming.
Yeah.
So this guy walked up to me and he said, "Are you the pastor?" So I took a deep breath and said, "Yeah, I'm the pastor. What can I do for you?" And he said, "Well, I'm here to see what I can do for you," which I hadn't heard that in a long time.
Yeah.
And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I just really want to come help you." And I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what he meant, And I said, "Well, I don't know, man. I don't know how you can help me. Look around." I said, "We've lost everything, and we're just hanging on by a thread." And he said, "What's one thing I can do? Tell me one thing I can do that would help you." So I remember thinking, and I don't know how the thought came around exactly. Maybe he suggested it. Maybe the Lord brought it to my thoughts. But I said, if I could pay my staff this week, maybe we could start over. I said, because I can't afford to make payroll. And he said, "Done." I said, "But you don't even know how much it is." Because by that time we had like 13 of us, 14 of us on staff.
Right.
And I said, "Oh, it's a pretty big number." And he said, "It doesn't matter." He said, and he wrote down on a piece of paper, said, "Here, call this number. This is the treasurer of our church. And you tell him what you need. And he's going to wire you whatever you need."
My God.
And I was stunned. And I said, "We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. This is a lot of money." And he said, "Just tell me what it is." So I had to drive an hour to get a phone signal because all the cell towers were down. So I drove almost to Baton Rouge before I could find a cell tower where I could call. So I called that number, and it was a guy the man in Springfield, Missouri. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Hey, this sounds like a crazy thing I'm about to tell you. I don't know if it's even real or not. But a man gave me this number and told me to call you." He said, "Oh, yeah, Pastor John, tell me to expect your call." I found out later it was John Lindell, the pastor of James River Church in
Springfield, Missouri.
Ozark, Missouri.
Yeah.
And one of the it's right outside of Springfield.
Okay.
It's in Ozark. The main campus is in Ozark. What is the largest AG church in America?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know John at the time. He moved in a whole different circle than I moved in. But it turns out his treasurer said, "Yeah, send me your banking information and the amount, and I'm going to wire you the money today." So they wired us our payroll that day.
Yeah.
It hit our bank. I remember I told Rachel, I said, "Hey, go cut all the staff checks, and we're going to pay everybody today." So we all got together for a staff meeting, and I passed out. You remember I passed out payroll checks? We passed out payroll checks, and you said, "Is this a joke? We don't have any money. It's just like faith." I said, "No, y'all.
This is Monopoly money
this
inside, right?"
Yeah, this is real." Everybody got paid that day.
Yeah.
And I told y'all the story.
Yeah, and he took care of us for 3 months, wasn't it?
Yeah, he paid our payroll every 2 weeks for 3 months.
3 months.
They would call and say, "Do you need to pay your staff?" And I would say, "Unfortunately, yeah." And the money hit the bank the same day for 3 months. They didn't know us. They didn't have any connection to do that other than it was just the grace of God.
Yeah.
And something the Lord spoke to my heart. And this wasn't one of those words. It was just one of those knowing voices. The Lord spoke to my heart. While we're busy rescuing others, God's busy rescuing us.
That's exactly right.
And it's always so true. If we can stay busy doing the ministry,
Yeah.
if we rescue others, God will rescue me.
Yeah.
And he always has done that.
That is so true.
Yeah.
I remember after we got home and we assessed the damages to our house, I remember Curtis and I standing outside and just all of the mess.
Yeah.
And he said, let's not worry about us.
Yeah.
He says, let's devote the first year to helping everyone in the church.
Oh, my God.
And when we made that decision, I was like, yeah, I was just all in. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
we're not going to worry about us.
Yeah.
I think at that point, we were staying with the Duties.
Yeah.
And we had lived in 3 different places. We even went and stayed with Selena's brother.
Oh, gosh. That's great.
And stayed in his house, empty house. So that's why we weren't eating MREs.
Yeah,
You know,
y'all had food. Yeah,
food,
we were living in a camper. After we moved out of the house in Ponchatoula, we bought an RV.
Yes, you guys did.
We lived in an RV for, I think, 7 months.
And y'all were glad to get rid of that RV.
Oh, so happy. I never want an RV again in my life. Rachel loves RVing, but I'm turned off.
Oh my God! Remember when we almost died in the RV?
Oh my gosh!
What story?
That was on a trip to Tennessee.
That was on a trip to
almost
Tennessee.
Turned the RV over.
Yeah.
Was I driving or was Rachel? I think I was driving.
Yes, I think you were driving.
Yeah.
Were you driving?
I don't know. Curtis got thrown up.
But Curtis's legs went straight up in the
Yeah,
air.
he flipped over. That was me driving. Rachel was a good driver.
Yeah, Rachel was a good driver.
We lived in an RV for me and Rachel and 5 kids in a 1-bedroom RV. Eating MREs. I don't know. Does not get any better than that.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
But you know what? We made the decision to serve the church for the first year. And after we made that decision, Curtis's company just literally just took care of us.
Oh, my goodness.
Bought our 5th wheel. They literally, after the storm, they said, what can we do? We said, we don't have a home. We don't have any place to live.
Yeah.
And they bought us a 5th wheel.
Oh, my goodness.
Then not only while we were waiting, before they had made the decision to do that, they were bringing us gas.
Oh, my goodness.
Every 2 weeks. They would find wherever we were, and they would fill up our vehicles and all of our children's vehicles.
Gosh.
With gas, and
What
they
a
would bring us food.
What company was that?
This was Kern McGee.
God bless Kern McGee.
Kern McGee was an amazing. They're no longer.
Yeah.
They sold
out to a bigger group.
They went debt free, and they just decided, hey, let's sell.
Hey,
and they sold.
we're billionaires.
But Kern McGee, Curtis worked for Kern McGee for 25 years.
Wow.
And that was an amazing company. They took care of us. When they brought the 5th wheel, it had everything in it.
It was a nice 5th wheel.
Oh,
you still own it?
I still own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should get the big truck to pull it with, too.
And I remember that first Christmas after the storm,
Yeah.
they sent us a letter, and they said, you know, we were thinking, and what we decided to do was the 5th wheel is your Christmas gift.
Oh, my gosh.
And gave us a check for $5,000.
Oh, gosh.
It was like,
what a company.
I am like, but you know what? I believe that was just
Yeah.
the blessing and
It
the
was
fruit
God.
of the Lord, just because we were ready to serve His people,
Right.
not even knowing
Right.
what it meant for us.
You were rescuing others,
Yeah.
and He was rescuing you.
And it just goes to your point
Yeah,
of what you just said.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
God looks at our
It's
hearts,
so true.
and He takes care of us.
Yeah.
He says He'll never leave, He'll never forsake us.
And we got to rebuild the church. It took us 3 years.
Yeah,
We
3
opened a new
years.
campus in Lacombe.
It took me 3 years to build a house, get my house
I
back.
know. We opened up our new campus in 2008, and we stayed there for 10 years until we sold that building and moved back to Slidell.
Yes.
Which I think we all knew that one day we would come home, back to where we started.
Yeah, but isn't that the voice of God, like what you heard? Because remember when you came to the lead team and you said, I believe the Lord's saying we need to sell the church?
Yeah. Yeah.
And was that not God? Where would
perfect timing.
what would have happened
Man.
had we not? And then the coronavirus hit.
I know it. It was just the grace of God. Because when the Lord spoke that to me, I knew it. I was talking to Rachel and Jeremy one day at lunch, right before the lead team meeting, and I was telling Rachel and Jeremy what I thought the Lord was saying. And I said, I really think God's telling us just to sell that 15 acres and that building. And it sounded crazy. Like, why would you do that? It didn't make any sense. Other than sometimes God just gives you knowledge that is supernatural, that you don't know what's coming, but He does.
You don't understand it.
Right.
But that act of obedience.
Man, changed everything. Yeah. I mean, we are, pretty much a debt-free ministry. And, we moved back into Slidell. And
we're thriving.
Oh, my gosh.
Despite
I know.
everything that's happened
in the middle
with
of this virus, worldwide pandemic, God positioned us in a place perfectly.
Yes.
And then, we were able to move our ministry online. We always had a small online presence, but we brought on, my son Cade and several other people who came along on the team and just really put us on, put our ministry online.
So God was even aligning all of those things.
All of that.
For that moment.
I know it, and even during the shutdown, the lockdown or whatever they call it, we never closed the church.
Never closed the door.
But people stopped coming. A couple Sundays it was me and you and the staff and our families. That's all was there.
Yeah.
And I think Hans and
Marshall.
Marshall and Hans.
Dawn.
They came every Sunday. They never missed, no matter what. Hans and Marshall and Dawn were always there every Sunday.
God bless them.
I know we had 3 people in the congregation.
we're such a blessed church. So fortunate. Do you
gosh.
know all the people that have been with you and in this ministry for so long?
They've
Like
stayed
that's
with us.
not normal.
They stayed with us for
It doesn't
for
happen.
years, or decades. John Taylor. John Taylor was one of our first visitors to ever come to the church. He showed up one day with his family and never left. John's been with us about 24, almost 25 years.
Yeah.
Since the beginning.
Yeah, Linda Lorenz.
Linda Lorenz. She was in our
my
first 6 o'clock prayer group. We prayed for the first year at 6 a.m. every morning. Not once a week, every day. And Linda was there every day at 6 a.m. for intercessory prayer. She literally prayed our church into existence.
Yeah. You saying that, but I may have come a year after the church started, but I was praying for you guys from day one of the church.
I didn't know
Remember Blue Alfonso?
Oh, yeah.
Stephanie, I think was his mom's name.
I do remember them. Absolutely.
Our kids was on the same basketball team when you started the church.
Yeah, and he was coming to our youth group.
And she tried to get me, like, I can't believe the number of people who tried to get me to come to Journey when the doors first opened.
Yeah.
Like, I look back on that.
It was the Lord.
And that was the
calling you.
Lord was like, you're going to be there.
Yeah.
This is where I'm taking you.
Robin Teresa Klein invited you to come.
Yeah, Robin Teresa
And the
invited me to
girls,
come
yeah.
there. Oh, it was like I was teaching school at First Baptist.
Yeah, that's right.
And I had several students say, you got to come to church. But Stephanie was she was the one who was like, I found this church and they're just getting ready to start. And she says, I think I'm going to go there because I had been inviting her to come to church with me. I had been witnessing to her and sharing the gospel.
Right.
But she said she was going. And so I started praying for Journey back then.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
In that first year because I wanted her to get rooted because she was such a sweet person. And I just wanted her to grow in the faith. Like our purpose statement says, helping people become fully devoted followers of Christ.
Right.
And I just really wanted to help her. Well, I really wanted her to be in a good church that was going to make that happen.
Yeah.
But I got to go back to almost where we started.
Yeah.
And we were talking about our first time coming to church and you greeting us and knowing our names and the dogs' names and everything.
Charlie.
And Charlie, God, I lost my train of thought. I had a senior moment.
Going back to the
when the first service.
Yeah.
Like I remember us walking away. We got in our car. We were at the Illuminate Cathedral, down Highway 190, past Thompson Road, Airport Road.
I know it.
We're driving home, and my kids talked about your message all the way from the Aluminum Cathedral. And we were talking all the way to Carroll Road about the message.
Oh, wow.
And I told the kids, I said, you know what? We're just checking out churches. We had never been to an all-black church.
Yeah.
I said, we're going to go and check out, I named a couple of churches. And I said, we're going to go and check them out and experience what it is to be in an all-black church.
Right.
And my kids, a revolt started in the back seat. And they were like,
bless
Journey,
them.
Journey,
Oh, no way.
Journey,
They
Journey,
were not going
Journey.
anywhere
We were
else.
like,
Yeah.
and I thought, in that moment, Curtis and I realized if our kids could talk about a message, being as young as they were, because I think Daniel was probably, Curtis Jr. must have been about 12 or so.
Yeah, about right.
So Daniel was about 8 or 9, 8 years old or so.
When was Daniel born?
Daniel was born in 84. In 84.
So he was going on 12 then.
He was going, oh, wow.
Yeah, he was on 12, almost 12.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he was 12.
Yeah.
So oh wow, then that Curtis Jr.
about
was
16.
16.
Yeah.
Oh wow, oh my God.
And
Right.
Josh was 14.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my children's
I
age is
do.
better than I do.
Yeah, but I
Thank
wouldn't
you.
stop you.
But they were in the back seat, literally just going crazy.
They made the decision.
Saying Journey.
Yeah.
And we just thought if they could talk about the message all the way from that point
That's amazing.
and know what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Then this was where we needed to be.
Yeah.
We never ever went to another church.
Yeah.
That became
Joshua
our
started
home.
calling me PD.
We're on the Canada trip.
He gave me my nickname.
That's right. And
Right.
now people call you PD.
He asked me if can I give you a nickname? I said, sure. He said, I want to give you a rapper name. I was like, okay, that's cool.
You're cool.
He gave me a rapper name. He said, I'm going to talk on you, PD. I was like, that's cool, Josh. And that was on our trip to Canada, which we've had a
my
couple of
God.
international outreaches together. Canada was one.
Yeah.
That was a fun trip.
Oh, that was really
that
fun.
was amazing.
Oh, we did
And
with
then-
good time.
And then we went to Africa together.
Oh, remember? Wait. Before we went to go for Africa,
Yeah.
we got to talk about the chef we had that went to Canada.
Oh, my
with
gosh.
us.
We ate like
Remember
kings,
Mike
huh?
Sanders? He cooked for us.
No, it wasn't Mike. It was Larry.
Larry Barrios.
Larry, yeah. Larry cooked
Barrios.
every night. Oh, my gosh. It
Yes.
was so
Oh,
good.
my God.
It was so good. We ate like kings for an outreach.
For an outreach, he was just bringing everything out
Oh,
the cooler.
yeah,
oh
he was
my
prepped, man.
God.
We
We
had a
had
different-
gumbo and etouffee.
We had a different dish
Shrimp etouffee.
every
Oh
night.
my God, it was
Yeah.
just like that was
And
amazing.
Remember, we were with a Muslim
Yes.
pastor who got converted to Christianity,
right?
And he was reaching Muslims in Canada. What an amazing ministry, huh?
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, Retta and Tahani. That was the pastor's name. The pastor and his wife, Retta and Tahani.
Exactly.
They're still in Canada.
Are they really?
And they're still reaching. They're still reaching Muslims for Christ.
That's so awesome.
So we got to spend a week with them. We did evangelism. We would preach at their church and serve them.
That was a great trip.
We also got to go to Africa together.
Oh, Africa
what a trip,
was
huh?
amazing. Absolutely
what a trip.
amazing.
Yeah. I don't know. There were so many good stories from Africa. Remember you made me buy the black cane in the airport because that's when I was going blind. And you said, Doug, if you just carry this cane, we could get through all the security lines. You had evil motives to get me out.
I was just trying to get us through.
I know.
I was trying to get us through.
You bought me this black cane and said, just carry this. And boy, they opened up all the doors. And I was legally blind.
Yes, you were.
I was legally blind, so it wasn't a lie.
Yes.
But I didn't want to carry the cane.
You didn't want to look like
I didn't want to be handicapped and
have
a reason to cut through all the lines. But hey, it got you to the front of the line, so that's really all that matters, right?
Sister didn't have to wait.
And why in the world did we go down the Nile River and I was legally blind? That was not a good decision on my part.
Did you hear what you just said?
Yeah, we went down the
Nile River.
I really went up the Nile River because it flows from south to north.
What an amazing experience that was.
Gabrielle
Remember the poisoning?
Yeah. Oh. Gabby was with us, and Gabby's the one who kept pushing the Nile. She even said, "Dad, how many chances will I ever have to go up the Nile River again in my life?"
And how many people can say they did that?
Yeah, I said, okay, Gabby, you're right. We're probably never going to go down the Nile again. So we all bought tickets, me and you and Gabby and Jeremy, to go up the Nile River. And we went whitewater rafting. Were we out of our minds?
Remember the poisonous snake that was in the water? And I wanted us to go to the snake. And I was like, let's go closer.
Yeah.
We want to, and it was
everybody's
like,
paddling
what?
back. They're like, no.
And I'm the only one who wanted to go towards it.
Remember when we launched in our boat? It was a big inflatable raft that held 8 people. It was in that big boat, and we paddled to the middle of the Nile. And it's so wide that you couldn't hardly see the bank from the center of the river.
Yes.
I mean, I have never seen a river that big in my life.
And remember,
it must have been a mile or 2 miles wide. It was just unbelievable.
Remember when we flipped in the Nile?
Well, how many times did we flip? 7 times. We turned over 7 times. There were 8 rapids. 8 rapids. 7 of them were, I don't remember the category. I think it's 5 is the worst or 6, whatever it is. They were all at the highest level. And the other one that wasn't rated was considered lethal.
Yes.
They didn't let us go over. They made us get out of the river, carry our boat around the rapid.
That's exactly right, and get back in.
Right, because they said
it was too dangerous.
Many people had died there. What were we thinking?
What an amazing experience that was.
We saw hippos.
Oh my God.
We saw giant cobras.
That was just
crocodiles. They said some of the crocodiles were like 15 feet long.
The bodas.
Oh my God!
Remember that? The motorcycles.
Yeah.
Remember I counted on one motorcycle 5 people on
people
one motorcycle, and they had their chickens in front.
And they're moving luggage, and children. There's babies tucked in beside the adults.
In between.
I know. It's like, yeah, they're called bodas because the bike took them from border to border. So it's kind of like a colloquial term for border to border, but it's called bodas.
Remember we're going down the highway and there's camels going down the highway with us?
I know it. It's just like whatever mode of transportation, bicycles, motorcycles, dump trucks, buses, camels, elephant. Remember the elephant?
Yes.
Guy riding the elephant down the street?
Yes.
Like, what the heck is going on? Where are we?
Crazy.
Yeah. And we were in, where were we? In Kampala.
Remember
it's a city of like 8 million?
Yes.
8 million people.
Yes. Crazy.
And
no red lights.
None. We saw one traffic light.
One.
I'm thinking, why did that street get a traffic light? And nobody else got one. That was the only street. You came to a 4-way stop, and it's whoever was the bravest.
And people like the bodas would go in between the cars.
Yeah.
And there's
Just
not even no space.
Zigzagging.
Like, dude, that's 2 feet.
I know. How are you going to fit in there?
Crazy.
I know. Yeah, we got to go to that church. Remember the church we preached at on that Sunday morning? It was out in the plains of Africa.
Oh, yes.
And we had to drive like an hour out of town. And the building only had half walls. It's so like at 4 to 6 feet tall, and then the rest of it was open air with like a thatch roof.
Yeah.
And there must have been 1,000 people there.
Oh, God, it was
And
crazy.
they had 3 services back to back to back.
Back to back.
Every service was full.
Yeah.
People would walk from every village.
All over.
It was
Yeah.
amazing.
But
man.
what a beautiful sight. Like I have my pictures.
Yeah.
And every once in a while they'll come up.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool to reflect
Yeah.
back on that moment in
Yeah.
time, you know?
Yeah, there was a song back in the 90s. I forgot who sang it now. But one of the lines was across the African plain, you know, people worshiping God in the rainforest, the African plains, you know, in the cathedrals of Europe. You know, worship is just
But
universal.
we got to do it, though. Yeah.
It's universal. It's the language of the soul, you know.
Yeah.
And again, hearing the voice of God. Not only does he listen to us, he also speaks to us. You know, he's an amazing God.
Mm-hmm. Remember while we were on that trip, they drink their milk fresh.
Right.
They drink the milk fresh.
Warm.
So like
Yeah.
warm, right
Yeah.
out the
cow.
Yeah.
I know, right?
So we stayed away from that. But we went to a restaurant. Remember the restaurant we went to? And
Yeah.
it was like we were on the rooftop.
It was called Soho. Yeah, a Soho restaurant, because it was the only American food in that part of town. And we went there for the French fries mostly.
Yes.
Remember they had fries?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I saw they had like a meat sauce,
Yeah.
spaghetti meat, and I love meatballs and spaghetti.
Yeah.
So I decided to get that.
I
But when it
remember.
came, it really wasn't like what we
Yeah.
were used to.
It was a
wasn't
different consistency, yeah.
And so I ate it.
Yeah.
And that night we went to the
Yeah.
Bible study
Yeah.
in this little,
Yeah. And you got sick.
and I got sick.
I remember you were sick as a dog.
And I remember we were tired and we just really didn't want to go to that.
I know.
To,
We
to
really
that. We
didn't.
didn't. And you were like, I just really want to go home.
I wanna go to
and so
bed.
we're in there, and it was just a little small group of us.
Right.
And we're in there, and all of a sudden I start getting sick from the meal.
Yeah.
And I just
I
knew
remember.
like I needed to go
Yeah.
and just
And
kind
I
of
was
like
so
walk
glad you were
away.
sick.
And, yeah. I know.
Like, oh, we got to take her home. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
sick.
See how that is? Like,
Yeah.
okay, you were glad I was sick. I was glad you were blind.
I was like, thank God she's sick. Hey, we got to leave early. She's sick. Yeah.
So I remember going out,
Yeah.
leaving out of the room.
Yeah.
I went outdoors because I knew I needed to throw up.
Yeah.
And I was making this really like
Yeah.
horrible
It was.
sound. It was like the
sounded
sound was
demonic.
really,
It was horrible.
it was terrible.
Yeah.
And I heard this little kid saying, Mama, what sound is that? What animal is that?
What is that? It's like-
he was trying to determine, he was
It's a
trying to decide,
wild-
figure out
it's a
what was
wild
the
pig
animal.
or something out there. Yeah. It
But
was
I
loud.
sounded terrible, but it got us in the van
It
and we got to
did.
go home.
We
and
cleared
after
out.
I threw up, I felt so much better.
Did you ever drink the milk?
No, I think it was milk that was inside of that.
Oh, yeah,
that
they
was,
put the milk in the sauce.
In the sauce.
That's what made you sick,
And that's what
probably.
made me
Yeah,
sick.
yeah,
So I was
probably
like,
so.
man, I was sick.
But every
Oh
now and
my
then we go to
God.
the Soho and we would eat a meal
Yeah.
that didn't make us sick.
Yeah.
They had some really.
I learned my lesson on
yeah,
that
I'm not
one.
getting the sauce.
I learned my
Don't
lesson
get the red
on
sauce.
that.
Yeah.
But remember going into the orphanage
Yeah.
and seeing the
Oh,
little
my
babies.
God.
I have
Oh,
a picture. You have a picture. I think I took the picture. I think I
With
was
Gabrielle?
of Gabby.
Yeah, yeah.
Holding
Danielle.
the baby.
Danielle.
And I remember putting my hand up next to.
Yeah, you took the picture, I think.
Yeah, I took that picture,
Right.
but I also took a picture of my hand next
Yeah.
to the baby that was in
Yeah.
an incubator,
I know.
and just how tiny the
Your
baby
hand
was,
was-
smaller
I know
than
your
my
hand was bigger than the baby. They told us a story of Danielle. In this ministry, they rescued children that were abandoned. And
Watotos, wasn't it
Watoto, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, which is I think it means children in the language. But anyway, they rescued Danielle from a dumpster. She was a newborn that her mom threw her away,
Yeah.
and somebody from the church witnessed it and went into the dumpster and took the baby out and brought her back to the baby home. They didn't call them orphanages.
Yes, that's right. They did
They
not
called
call them
baby
homes.
homes. Every
Yes.
baby gets a home.
Home.
Oh my God, I love their philosophy of ministry.
That place was
I
amazing.
know. So they asked Gabby if she would take care of Danielle that day. And she's sitting in the nursery, and Danielle's
Such a great picture.
maybe as big as this cup. She may weigh 2 pounds. And Gabby's holding her like this. It was a defining moment, just in the love of God, how God loves us, because we've all been in the dumpster.
Oh,
We've all been abandoned,
isn't that the
and the
truth?
Father rescued us out.
We all need to be rescued, don't we?
Everybody needs to be rescued.
Do you remember that day when we were leaving out? There was a family bringing their child
Yeah.
and dropping their child off because they could not care for
Couldn't
that
take
child.
care of the baby anymore.
They had already had too many kids. And
Right. And they couldn't
and
feed. They couldn't feed another
They couldn't
baby.
take another one.
Yeah.
And they were leaving their baby.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. So many hurting people in the world.
but the views were absolutely
Africa is an amazing continent, man.
Remember when we went to the village where we went to have a meal, a traditional African meal.
Remember. Refresh me.
Yeah, drove way out into the countryside.
Yeah.
And they showed us how one of the things they wanted to do was we were trying to decide where we were going to put some money at, right?
Oh, that's right.
Remember?
Yeah, we were going to leave an offering for them to do something with.
Under one roof, there would be 4 homes, and each home had a corner
I remember.
underneath
and we
of the
played
roof.
soccer in the
And we played
yard.
soccer in the yards with the kids. Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
And just how well they had it set up. Like they had the school, they had the place for them to go get medical care.
Yeah, right.
They had the mother who had 8 children. Each
It
mother
was
took
a
care of.
neighborhood.
Yes.
It was a neighborhood where those babies were all being raised by moms and dads.
Yeah. So when they left the orphanage, that's where they would go at.
So
they stayed the baby home.
Yeah.
Yes. The baby home.
They would go to a permanent home.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they stayed there until they were like 2 years old at the baby home.
Right. And then
up until 2, and then they would
get
go,
parents.
Yeah. And they would get a mother.
Right.
They would get a mother.
Right.
And that mother would care for 8 children.
I know it.
And I got a picture of one kid, and he's like making bricks.
Oh my gosh.
From
Lord
mud
Jesus.
and straw.
Lord Jesus.
It made me just think of, the children of Israel.
Yeah.
It's such a great picture.
Yeah.
But there were so many things that are just etched in my mind now from that trip.
That was incredible. God's done, sometimes, in the middle of all of those outreaches that we've done, it's not really what we got to do, but it's what God did in us. It's forever changed. Forever changed. Next year, if the travel restrictions are lifted, we may get to go back to Central America and plant a new church. That's our hope with Luis, that we can plant a brand new church. I want you to go with me.
I want to.
Yeah, we need to go back again. If the Lord opens the door for us, and
I hope He does.
Plant some more churches.
I hope He does.
Yeah, I'm excited. God's moving all across the world, even in spite of this the virus. God is moving across India. The 15 churches that Santos and Anjali have planted. The work that Alan and Tricia are about to do in Peru.
Yeah, he's got a namesake there.
I know, right? I know. It's amazing, isn't it? And so God's doing some really cool stuff, So
He really is.
Anyway, it's been so fun talking to you today.
This was great.
Kind of reliving some stories. We got so many more to tell, so we got to pick this up again in the near future and go round 2.
Love to
tell stories. Thank the Lord you listened to His voice last week. And you got to finish those beans.
Yeah, the beans were important.
Speaking of that, it's Monday, and I'm going to get some red beans and rice for lunch, God willing, because it's Louisiana, man.
It's Louisiana.
Red beans and rice day in Louisiana. I love you so much, Tanya Camper.
Man, I love
you and Curtis
too.
And your boys and your grandkids and your daughters-in-law. What a beautiful family
we have done life together over the years.
Hopefully,
and have many more to go.
Hopefully God will give us a few more.
It's like we always say, you're not getting rid of me.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I'm not going anywhere, and neither are you. We're going to keep doing this.
We're lifers.
Until Jesus comes. Yeah. Or until we go by the way of the grave. Well, that wraps it up for today. I've enjoyed being with my longtime friend Tanya Camper. This is Doug McAllister from Journey Fellowship Church. And you've been watching stories I didn't get to tell last Sunday. It's our weekly podcast. If you're new to Journey, you can download the Journey app. Go to your app store and type in Journey Fellowship Church, and you can download the app. It's compliments of Journey. It is packed with resources to help you grow in your faith, past messages. You can watch the past episodes of this podcast. Also, you can find a small group. You can get driving directions how to get to Journey if you're living on the North Shore and want to visit us. We are in Slidell, Louisiana. Also, our web is journeyfellowshipchurch.com. If you want to know more about us, check it out on the web or on the Journey app. It's a pleasure spending an hour with you today, and thanks for watching stories I didn't tell last Sunday.